Hey indie film lovers, thank you for tuning in to Indie Cinema New York on BRIC TV. I'm your host Kweighbaye Kotee, Bushwick Film Festival Founder and indie film enthusiast. America's largest documentary film festival, Doc NYC, is happening right now. This year's festival lineup has over 250 films and events with many special guests. Doc NYC opened on November 10th and runs through the 17th, so you only have 2 more days to get out and see more films. On today's show, I'm sitting down with director Damani Baker, whose acclaimed film, The House on Coco Road, is screening tomorrow at 7:45 p.m. at the IFC Center. With many themes that parallel today's post-election state of heightened political awareness, it is a powerful and very timely film to experience. Let's take a quick look at the trailer.
You may find answers to stuff that we still don't know, and in your own way can find answers to questions that we still are struggling with.
United States paratroopers have invaded Grenada with helicopter gunship. Our country is under attack.
The situation in the country was instigated by operatives on assignment from the government of the United States.
Grenada, we were told, was a friendly island paradise for tourism. Well, it wasn't. It was a Soviet-Cuban colony being readied as a major military bastion to export terror and undermine democracy.
Do you think that the United States has the right to invade another country to change its government?
You have this situation where we are trying to build a new society. We are trying to develop new attitudes, new values. We are literally trying to create a new man and a new woman.
For us, Grenada, especially for Black people, really marked a new moment in history.
It just sort of captured the imagination of us. A revolutionary government right here in our own hemisphere. I could already see Fanny's wheels turning. And the next thing I knew, she was packing you all up.
I took my young children out of my country to come here to help this country. I left in pain. This is the first time I've been back, so you've got to be very sensitive. It was a loss of friends and loss of a utopia.
Well, how long did we think we were going to stay there?
I was going to live there.
For good?
Mm-hmm. I planned to stay. I planned to live. I had moved to Grenada.
You didn't tell us.
You were 10.
Everybody talking about changing the world. World ain't ever gonna change, but you can always change it from me.
That was the trailer to House on Coco Road by director Damani Baker. So Damani, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Your film is so timely right now. And when I watched it, really touched me, even more the second time around. Can you tell us a little bit more about the film and the process of shooting it?
Sure. This film really started technically about 13, 15 years ago.
Wow.
My mother moved my sister and I to join a socialist democracy, this experiment that was happening in the Caribbean. My family is originally from California. My mother's from LA. I was born and raised in Oakland. And my mom was very active in California around the Free Angela Davis Committee, the Free Breakfast Program with the Panther Party. And so she lived this life of activism that kind of, I think, led us to Grenada and what happened there. So Grenada at the time, when she was first invited, was this beautiful place with a leadership of people of African descent in their 30s, doing something that she could only have dreamt of for herself in California with her children. And so really, due to Ronald Reagan's administration, a real violent, aggressive attack on Black communities across the country, she said, we don't need to be here. And she packed us up and we went to join the Grenada Revolution, only to find ourselves in harm's way during the eventual coup and US military invasion. So this film started as a filmmaker 15 years ago, but I think it's a story I've been dying to tell for a long time. Even from the day I was probably evacuated when I was 9 years old, I thought this was something I need to revisit.
And how long were how long was your family there?
We were there less than a year.
Less than a year.
She was invited by the Ministry of Education to do teacher training and curriculum development, and we fell in love with Grenada. And Grenada is still a beautiful place, and during that time, I think the world had never really seen anything like it. And so my mother, Angela Davis, Fania Davis, the Davis family, were drawn to this. We call it a utopia, but it was really kind of the first time in their lifetime they'd seen a country of African descent in the Western Hemisphere, English speaking.
Led by a powerful leader.
Led by, you know, women, and you saw women in positions of power. You saw a charismatic Maurice Bishop, who really believed in kind of participatory government and trying this new thing. And it was small enough where it was on its way. I mean, Grenada at the time was 110,000 people. And so it really was kind of, as Angela says beautifully, this beacon of light for oppressed people all over the world. And so my family just happened to be one of the ones that went that far.
Your mom, let's just talk about her for 1 second.
Yeah.
She is so powerful and so inspiring. And growing up amidst a revolution with a lot of women in power, how did that impact your filmmaking experience? And this is a two-part question, right? So you grew up in a revolution, and now you're experiencing something similar right now, where we're in the middle of, I don't know what we're in the middle of right now, you know? Can you just talk a little bit? Yeah.
Well, I feel very fortunate that I've had a community of mentors and really brilliant change-making women in my life that have shaped not only kind of what happens in my home, but how I have grown up and kind of looked at the world. The simple idea of another version of this reality is possible. Another world can exist beyond one driven by material things and capitalism and hierarchy. And that, for me, Grenada really was the first kind of experience in that. But the lessons I think I've learned along the way, one, when you grow up around a lot of really strong folks, you learn to listen. You learn to listen, and you learn to take notes, and you can do that with confidence and humility at the same time. So I think some of those lessons and seeds were planted by that incredible group of women. We screened the film yesterday, and Charlene Mitchell was there. Now, most people don't know her. She's in the film, but she was one of my mom's mentors. She was one of the organizers who really brought the Free Angela Davis Committee together and taught these young women and men the ways to kind of present Angela that led to eventually her release. And Charlene Mitchell was here in New York with us yesterday, and she was also the first black woman to run for president.
Wow.
And people don't know this. And so those stories, that narrative, should become part of the conversation now in terms of the way forward, because there were things that they were doing that were just so simple in terms of action that I think there's a ton of information we haven't tapped into. And that also has something to do with how media is presented.
That's a whole different thing, right?
Right.
Right now, we're in the middle of Black Lives Matter, and also at the wake of the of the presidential election. What are your thoughts on the movement, and how do you feel about the election?
Wow.
Those are very loaded questions. I understand.
Well, the movement, I feel like, it never ended. You know, obviously, I'm distraught. I'm hurt. I feel unsafe some hours. But I'm hopeful that collectively we will figure out a way to move forward. This isn't the first time or the last that we'll experience what it truly means to feel oppressed. I think it has taken on a new, it's wearing a new costume because this person has shown up and is spouting hate. And I think of my great-grandmother, you know, in rural Louisiana, who was a sharecropper and couldn't have imagined me sitting here right across from you. So I think we have to keep imagining the possibilities that we can actually hold this promise of a better, more livable world. And so I'm so inspired by the movements that are happening right now.
I'm inspired about the movement and the film, because when I watched the film, I was just so amazed at how much they were willing to stand up for. They were willing to go to prison.
Yeah.
They were willing to go into hiding. They were just like fighting against such a big America in those days. So now with everybody uprising now, I feel like it brings back that inspiration and to see those women from the past doing the same thing.
And we have the tools, you know. We actually have the tools to do it. One piece from Fania Davis, who's in the film, Angela Davis's sister, she talks about, you know, one of the ways forward is to kind of really look here and think about the work that you can do that is probably 1.5 feet from where you're standing. I think there's a spiritual war happening. There's someone who is literally challenging who we are in terms of our core. And I think we within ourselves have a lot more power than we're taught to believe. And I think harnessing that, and you see that with Black Lives Matter, you see that with communities across the planet that usually don't rise to the top. Not that they haven't existed, but their voices are being heard. And I think it's part of, for me, I want to listen, I want to take notes, I want to continue making art. I think art has an incredible opportunity right now. I think
artists and filmmakers are healing the world right now.
There are the poets and the writers and the musicians that are really, I think, going to push a lot of what could happen collectively.
Well, thank you so much. Our time's up. I think of a quote, forward ever, backward never.
Forward ever, backward never.
I hope everybody can come out to see that screening tomorrow. I hear that it's almost sold out.
Yeah, there's a few tickets left.
There's 20 tickets left out of 230?
I think so.
Yeah, so
let's snatch them up.
Snatch those tickets up. And it's a very important screening, and I really hope that people can go out and support the film, support you as a filmmaker, because it's very important.
Well, thank you also for making the space for our stories, our narratives, and I really am so honored to be here, truly.
So proud to have that opportunity. Thank you. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of ICNY on BRIC TV. Folks, make sure to go out and see The House on Coco Road tomorrow at 7:45 p.m. at IFC, and be sure to check out other films at Doc NYC. For tickets to the screening and for more festival information, visit www.docnyc.net. ICNY is produced by the Bushwick Film Festival. You can visit us at indiecinemaNewYork.com. Now back to Brian and Aaron for a look at tomorrow's BK Live.